Saw the light, but there was no one waiting, by Ron Furlong. Some time ago I told you about the first time that I had died. That I was only 3 months old at the time means that I actually told you about the stories recounting it rather than the incident itself. The second time I died, I was a lot more mature, or at least a lot older, being well into my 50s. To give this context, I'm a cancer survivor, though most times I feel more like a fraud than a survivor. Oh, I went through the mental gymnastics well enough, but the actual dealing with the disease? A single surgery, promptly scheduled, executed by a highly skilled team, the assurance of the medical community, even while still in the hospital, that every sign was that they got it all. That places where you look for any stray bits all came up clean. No months of chemo, no days lying on the couch wondering which was worse, the disease or the cure. No having to re-identify yourself because of the changes in your body. There was just two little things, a surgical hernia and shortened large intestine that delights in complicating my life. But it's actually the hernia that killed me. While this story is about what it felt like to die, I can't help but share a little bit of the experience of having a hole in your belly, where every day a nurse shoves in a Q-tip as she changes your dressing. How did I end up with a hole in my belly where people poke things? It just so happened that at that time I was only beginning my career of toting around a belt buster belly. At that point, it was enough of a paunch to complicate the decision between an open incision and laparoscopic surgery, so that having started with one, they ended up switching to the other. The result being that my scars are a hybrid of both. In its infancy, one of those scars became infected and didn't heal properly for a period of time, leaving an open path from nature to nurture. This was the orifice that got daily swabs and meticulous care to try to get it to close up. Eventually it did on the surface, but underneath it did not. This means that the body's rigging it uses to hold everything in place had a hole in it. A hole big enough to allow things to poke through that shouldn't be allowed to poke through. Oh, it was under the skin okay, but that just made it more risky that it would clamp down on what was part of a healthy bowel, and that just wouldn't have been good in so many ways. If you ever been really aware of what's going on with your belly muscles as you lift yourself up out of a chair, you know exactly what I mean, and just how much strength your abdominal muscles have. They have enough strength to have defeated the first attempt to repair my body's rigging with a mesh designed to hold everything in place. My abdominal muscles simply tore it out within a year. So it was actually my second repair attempt and my third abdominal surgery where I died in the recovery room. Oh, I know some of you are going to say I'm being overly dramatic talking about dying. After all, who gets to talk about their own death? And since I was never legally declared dead, I may not have the right to actually say I died. Regardless of the semantics, the experience is mine, and since I'm writing the story, I think I'll tell it my way. In the recovery room, you don't wake up. You become aware. Waking up includes a perception of time, place, and space. Even if you lay there with your eyes closed, putting off the surrender of warm comfort afforded by the blankets you're snuggled into, you still choose your level of awareness of the world around you. Coming out of anesthetic, at least for me, is a journey. First, of discovering sound. Sounds in the distance that don't get louder. They coalesce into hearing. Next is turning up the brightness, like stepping out of a bedroom lit by a single clock face into a hallway leading to a room where the light is on. Followed by, but not right away, to an awareness of shapes moving around you, blobs who form into people, and an understanding of whether they're moving towards, away, or simply passing by. And so it was that following my surgery to once again repair the hole in my belly, I became aware that I was in what I assumed was a recovery room. With a woman on each side of my gurney, the one to the left was holding my wrist and saying, "I see you're back with us." I'm not normally antisocial, but I was glad it wasn't a question, as I really didn't feel like coming up with any sort of an answer, smartass or otherwise. I was disoriented and queasy. I had an awareness of pain, but couldn't have assigned it a location of my body. It was just there. While the person on my right fussed, the woman on my left interacted with me, or at least tried to. For the most part, my whole body felt lethargic, but my guts were telling me that they were going to get even for what I'd just put them through. I did manage to communicate that I didn't feel well, but I thought I was going to vomit, though truth be told, I don't really think I used the word vomit. I remember warm fingers on my chin directing my head to the side as I felt the chill of the kidney basin against my cheek, when I heard a sharp, "No, get him on his side, now," then the single word, "pressure." And as I heard somebody say 20/0 and somebody else say call the code, I felt myself slipping. There's no other way to describe it but slipping, not a fall, as there was no gravity involved. Just that sensation of letting go, and darkness starting at the edges of vision and moving inward. At the time, I didn't even have the initiative to connect this tunnel of darkness, pinching off the lights, as what others describe as seeing a light in the distance. For me, it was the only light left, and it was a long way off. I don't remember the transition from light to dark, that point in time when there was light left and then not. Also, the time I spent in darkness was indistinct, but there was a time, an interval, in which I thought, this is how it ends. It was only later, and fade to black now brings a private smile to my face. The next time my surroundings resolved into the world I could see, hear, and smell, I didn't have the same lassitude. Oh, sure, I still hurt from my forehead to my toenails, but I felt grounded. As I said at the start, this is a story of how I died, and as we come to the end of that story, I don't know if I'll be able to tell you about the next time I die, but even so, if you're interested in how I lived, let me know.